Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
And the donkey to his trick, Jake.
gives you sports betting tips. I'm Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. And you can follow my friend Jake on Twitter at myfriend_Jake. Today is Saturday, February 26, 2022, and this episode covers today's best college basketball bets. In case you're new here, I've built a mathematical model that predicts the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C pick for each of today's games not covered in this episode, is available in the Google Sheet linked in the show's description. A picks are the ones I love, B picks are the ones I like, and C picks are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say the model will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, I say this spiel every day, good and bad variance. Sometimes we talk about it. Some nights are good variance, some nights are bad variance. Last night was one of those bad variance nights. I went 3-5 on this here podcast yesterday with all picks. 4 of those 5 losses were inside of 2 points. Now, we did get one lucky win with St. Louis. I thought we lost that one at the end.
Sometimes you need an extra bounce, like the IU guy bouncing it off the floor like a horse shot the other night. That was wild.
Right. So we got one lucky one, but then I had 2 overs that lost by 1.5, one that lost by a half a point. That was that Princeton game that you lost by a point too. A guy misses 2 free throws late. And then Louisiana, I'm sitting here yesterday and I said, hey, plus 6.5, there's value there. It's tight late. And I'm like, they're going to lose by 7, just like I was, And so we had 4 close losses yesterday. Again, like I said, good and bad variance will occur. We celebrate the good, and we understand that the bad happens. That's why we always preach smart bankroll management. Sometimes these things happen, and it's better to bet smart, and then you can live to see another day. So hopefully today goes a little better. A lot of games on the slate as usual. Saturday kind of determines how the week goes because there are so many games today. Lots of fun. Before we get to that slate, though, a reminder, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Subscribe or follow if you aren't yet. We appreciate those. They help us out greatly. Share with a friend if you know others in the game. Drop a comment on Twitter or YouTube. We love those and try to respond to as many as we can, especially today being Saturday. We aren't doing our usual live show. Drop that comment in YouTube or hit us up on Twitter, and we'll do our best to respond to answer your questions about 80 games as much as we can. Getting right to it here, there's one early game we want to talk about. Noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. Purdue is a 5-point road favorite at Michigan State. I'm a little nervous on the side here because I feel like the Big Ten is becoming a conference where you just don't know what to expect. But I do really like this over 146.5. If y'all been here for any time, I've been riding these Purdue overs. Of their 28 games, I have found an over edge at 18 of them, and those have gone 12-6. And so anytime you can win 2 out of 3, that's pretty good. I expect that continue. Michigan State has been a team that kind of plays to their opponent. Purdue wants to go fast. The model makes this almost 151, so I like over 146.5. Jake, who wins? And if you have Purdue, can they cover 5 on the road?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they get it done. Michigan State is struggling majorly right now. They're turning the ball over at a obscene rate, a little over 20% of the time they are turning the ball over, and it's really rough. And they've lost 5 of their last 6, letting in an average of about 74 points a game there, and that's not a recipe to go against this offensive juggernaut in Purdue. And even at home, I don't think they get that all the way settled, and I think the over is a safe play because Purdue plays no defense. Michigan State's not playing defense. Neither team forces a bunch of turnovers, so it's going to be who can hit the most shots, and anytime you're in that kind of game, that's leans Purdue pretty heavily.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense there. We have 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, Kentucky at Arkansas. I feel like I've done pretty well with Kentucky lately. I've kind of zigged and zagged. I avoided that Tennessee game, so didn't, have one either way. But I've kind of faded them in some spots. Faded them earlier this week against LSU, and that worked out. I've taken them a couple times. I'm taking Kentucky here, plus 2.5. The model thinks this should be a pick 'em. I will say the interesting thing about this is that my numbers have struggled for the most part to catch up with Arkansas. They weren't expected to be very good coming into the season, and some of that is still frustratingly hanging on. And so my numbers don't really like Arkansas. But the interesting thing about this game is that my numbers, said kind of similar things about Kentucky, seeing how even though last year kind of can explain away, Kentucky struggling so much last year. So I think this is a toss-up game. I think anything happens. I like having the 2.5 points in my back pocket. If you have the money line type, I think there's value there because I think this should be a fascinating game to watch. Jake, what's your take?
Yeah, this is probably my least confident one of the day. I'm leaning Arkansas, and it has everything to do with the health and being at home. Right, Kentucky might be going into a very tough environment, and with Bud Walton, it's just impossible to play when you're fully healthy. And going without a point guard to a pressure defense that Arkansas can put up, so that's really rough. And like you could see the results of that at the end of the game with Coach Cal not being the greatest X's and O's guy, and then no point guard. They let a 15-point lead. I think LSU came back and tied it, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't
Or
think it got to tie. I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 or something
yeah,
like
let that go away in under 2 minutes just because they pressed, and Arkansas is going to do. They're going to see that film and hit that up because there's not been enough practice time. So if even if Ty and Severe Wheeler come back and play, they're not at full strength. So they're really playing with probably like half a point guard if they come back and play, or no point guard. So it's going to be really tough for them to pull it out. If both these teams are healthy, I go Kentucky, but I'm leaning Arkansas here.
And you make some great points there. My numbers are accounting for those guys being out, but they aren't able to really account for it in the specific way of can Arkansas pressure them. It's not quite that in depth of a system. I'm not running, a simulation on a video game, right? As much fun as that would be to build, right? You make some great points. I think the biggest question here is, does Kentucky want to win this game? Does this game matter to them? And obviously they want to win. I'm not trying to get it they wouldn't, but is this one that they're going to say, we need this, we need to go on the road, we need to go play a victory, we're going to play everybody, that sort of thing? Or is this we're going to go out there, but we don't want to get anybody else hurt, right? Because I could really see this going either way. I could see this being a statement game, helping for seeding, and them saying, we've got to go on the road and take care of business. But I could also see them saying, we don't need this for anything. Let's rest Ty. Let's, if things get out of hand, let's not try to pressure anything. And so I can kind of see that going either way. And I think your take there probably affects which way you lean in this game, right? If you think Kentucky's going all out, you probably like them a little bit more. But if you think there's no reason for them to, then I could see Arkansas winning this one pretty easily.
Yeah, there's. I mean, it's hard to get in Coach Cal's head here. I think he
Exactly.
leans more March than he does about the SEC tournament and stuff with different statements that he has. But they do have a reason to go for it. Like if Tennessee does what I think they do and they win, then you're looking at a really tight race coming down the last game for the first one seed in the SEC tournament, and that could be the difference with a one seed in the March Madness, like because if it's coming down to that with the way Auburn's kind of struggling recently, that head to head matchup there, the most recent one may be the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fascinating question, something to check, keep an eye out with injury status. Again, even if those guys play, they won't be 100%. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Should be a fascinating game to watch, see how it plays out for sure. At 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, Seton Hall at Xavier. I've got this as an under pick, under 140.5. The model thinks 139. Unders have not been awesome this last month. It's been generally an over game in the sport for one reason or the other, but the model is 9-5 on unders on these two teams all season long. I think that's just a few too many points in what should be a tight game. A really interesting one, Jake. Who pulls out the victory here?
Yeah, I'm going with Xavier here. They do a lot better at home. They're not great by any stretch. They're not great offensively, but Seton Hall is beat up, like we said, for feels like all year.
Yeah.
But and I know Nate Johnson's still out, but I think they dominate the paint. They win this by like 5 or so, and just enough because they do well enough taking care of the ball. And Seton Hall isn't a great defense anymore because they're lacking the players, and their offense struggles because they really go through one guy. And on the road, I don't see the role players stepping up enough. So I think Xavier gets this one done.
Yeah, and Xavier are notoriously a tough place to play, and so that could be the difference in this game. Moving on to some of the evening games at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, Loyola Chicago at Northern Iowa. The model makes this 139, so I'm taking over 137 and a half. Loyola Chicago has been an under team. Northern Iowa has not been. This feels a lot like that Belmont Murray State game that we just had in a lot of ways, with the one team destroying the other one. Now is the rematch. The line's tight. Will the same thing happen, or will it flip back? Two teams that sometimes have played a little bit more under because of their competition. I'm hoping to avoid that fate here. I went over there and it didn't work because Belmont decided scoring 40 points in a college basketball game is good. as long as Northern Iowa can score more than 40, right? At least we got a shot at this one. I think the fact that they're playing different competition, I think that that should speed them up a little bit as opposed to being in those boring games of these teams that they just beat up. So as long as we can avoid that fate, I like the over here. I don't think 137.5 is high enough. Jake, does Loyola Chicago go on the road and take care of business here, or can Northern Iowa get the win?
I think they do. I think this is one of one of those small teams to really look out for this year. I know they've been kind of a trendy pick over the last few years with the runs they've made, but I mean, even this year they've got a very very good team. Porter Moser left this program in a really good place. Um, like they're the 25th ranked in offensive efficiency, fifth ranked in effective field goal percentage. They make 9 threes a game, hitting them at a 38, almost 39% clip. So it's a very very good offense, very hard to stop. They can be a little sloppy, a little with about 18% of their possessions ended up in turnovers, but they have a really good defense. With I think they're ranked 30th, which is really good. And like, I mean, obviously top 30, but when you play against those smaller teams and things like that, that means a lot. And Northern Iowa's biggest thing they can do really is hit their free throws. They hit it almost 79%, but they really don't have a good offense, and so if Loyola can stay away from fouling them and giving them extra possessions, I think I don't think they do the 27, but I think they get them 5 to 10, and it's
Gotcha.
like sit comfortably at the end.
And again, just to make that comparison, that Murray State Belmont game, you have kind of the same thing that Murray State's defense looked really good. And we talked about how what did that mean against the competition, or whatever, and they just shut Belmont down. So I think that's going to be the key to this game is if Loyola Chicago, again, like you said, good defense, if they can really hold Northern Iowa down, they should get an easy cover, and that's going to make my over a little bit tougher. I think Northern Iowa can score enough to get that over. The question, of course, can they score enough to cover that one? At the same time slot, we've got Wisconsin at Rutgers. The model makes this about a pick 'em, and so I'm going to grab those 2.5 points, put those in my back pocket there. Again, if you like the money line, you got some plus odds value there. I hope that y'all grabbed the under. If y'all saw the Google sheet when it was 134 yesterday, I really like under 134. At 132, I still think I'd play under 132, but the number dropping down, you've lost some value there. My official pick, Wisconsin, is plus 2.5 is a B pick. It's a hate pick though, and sometimes the hate picks win, and sometimes the hate picks lose. You just never really know. When I try to let my emotions get involved and my brain get involved, that's why I built the model. I try to stay away from that for the most part. The idea here is that it's really tough to play basketball at Rutgers. A lot of teams have figured that out for the last couple of months. That's just the fear. The fear is anytime you take someone at Rutgers, you never really love it. But the numbers say that this should be more like a pick 'em, and so you're getting some value on Wisconsin. But I don't love it. Jake, what do you have?
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like I'm on Wisconsin, but they're 4-2 as a road dog this year, and they've got 4 outright wins. So it's either they win or. But I think this one with as short a number as they're going against, I think they'll get it. I actually think they win. A little bit of a revenge factor feeding in. Rutgers had that super high run, and now I think it's coming back down to the normal. Even at home, and like with the way Wisconsin plays in the last game, Rutgers was hot, and Tyler Wall was about the only offense Wisconsin had. Johnny Davis had a very rough night. I think he only scored 11, and he didn't make a three. He was 5 of 10 for the floor, which isn't bad, but it really wasn't a great night for him. And they're getting an extra player back in Neath, who's done with his 1 game suspension after the craziness at the end of the Michigan game. But their offense as a whole is actually improving over the last 5 games. I've moved them inside. Like if you compare where they're at, what they've done in the last 5 games versus where everybody's at on the year, they've moved them inside the top 10 in efficiency, and they're hitting free throws, hitting 74.5% on the year, and that's up to 77.6 in the last 3. So I think Wisconsin has enough offense to get this done. They don't turn the ball over, and I don't think Rutgers is a great defensive team by any stretch. So I think that it becomes kind of a shootout, but not really because of the pace. And
Right.
yeah,
Right. A shootout for Virginia standards, right? We talk about Virginia a lot. They share the same sort of thing. Like their defense isn't that good, and so you have air quote shootout, right? With Virginia, the pace is so slow, it doesn't really get high, sky high in the
Yeah,
points. But with regards to the efficiency stuff, right?
yeah.
Speaking of games that we hate, personally, as a Baylor fan, this next one, I don't love this, but we're here, and I guess we'll talk about it, right? 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, Kansas at Baylor. The model makes us Baylor -2.5, so I'm taking Kansas +3.5. Usually, I need more than 1 point of difference between what I make the game and what the spread is for a play, assuming we're at -110 odds, right? At -105, it's a little bit different, but usually the math would have said this isn't a play, except for the fact that 3 is one of the most valuable low numbers. 1 is the least valuable of the low numbers, then it's 3, and then 2. 3.5 to 4.5 is a lot less valuable than 2.5 to 3.5 is. So this is a value play here. My numbers say Baylor wins by a basket, and so getting 3.5 for Kansas makes a lot of sense. After Baylor no-showed in Lawrence the first time, I don't really know what to expect uh, in the rematch here, the revenge spot. I don't really know what to expect from Baylor. We talked about them several times here this last month with the injuries and with the shifting of how they're playing to adjust for those injuries. I kind of think anything can happen here tonight. So this has kind of been the theme. Take a couple of points, put them in your back pocket. If it's close, you've got some insurance, or take the money line and just say, hey, I'm going to take money line on 4 or 5 games that are pretty close. And if you go 500 on them, then you've profited on the night. So I think there's value on Kansas. But I don't really know what to expect. Anything can happen. And so in that scenario, I say take the points or take the plus odds. Jake, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I'm Baylor's just so beat up right now with Cryer being out and no
Being
Jonathan.
being back, and then being out again, and
Yeah,
which very frustrating, right? Because you hope these games don't matter a ton. They'll be a 2 seed, they'll be a 3 seed, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Right? Let him get healthy. He comes back and he gets hurt again. It's like
yeah. And so that's rough. Kansas is somehow not talked about, and I don't get it. They're very, very good. Ochai Agbaji
yeah.
is nuts. I don't think that, especially with Jonathan out, there is no inside presence. Like Flo Thamba is good, but not enough to defend the
They
rim
need
and stop McCormick.
they need
Um,
both guys. That's
yeah,
what they've been doing all season. They need both of them.
and the way Kansas is shooting right now is just nuts. So I think Kansas gets this one done. I'm not exactly sure why the line is this kind of low. I expected this to be maybe 1 or like when it came out, but I don't know. Maybe somebody knows something I don't, but it really
Well,
really leans Kansas to me.
and I think you make a really good point there, right? Baylor's more of a trendy team. They've been better the last several years. They would have probably been the number 1 overall seed if not for COVID canceling the 2020 tournament. Of course, they won last year. So Baylor's more of a trendy team. People like that. We're tired of talking about Kansas. How many years has Kansas won the Big 12, done really well, and then they get to March and they lose in the Sweet 16,
Yeah,
right? So I think it's kind of just we're tired of talking about Kansas. But you're right. This is a really good Kansas team. And look, I just as a reminder, I'm going to get this in right now, right? When we get to March, just because a team did bad 5 years ago, none of those, well, not now they might have been 5 years ago because of all the extra stuff, but 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, even a lot of teams 5 years ago, 4 years ago, these guys weren't around, so it doesn't really affect anything.
yeah.
It's not like they're the ones that choked all those previous ones away. So Kansas is really good, like you said. And just because they've struggled in years past, I don't think we should penalize them for that.
Yeah.
And should be an interesting game, should be a close game. I will probably be biting all my nails off as a Baylor fan for
I
this
mean,
one.
I mean, the Big 12 is loaded too, so it's kind of easy. It's understandable how they're not talked about with Baylor being as good as they were for the beginning of the year, then Texas Tech making that great run,
Right.
and that they're still on and stuff. So it's kind of easy to see them slide under the radar, but they're still I think first place in the Big 12, and nobody's really talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. And then our last game breakdown here before we get to our overtime A plays, I'm going to turn it over to Solo Jake Time, a game that I don't really have an edge one way or the other. And so I'm just going to let him have the floor. He's done really well in these segments. And so we've got Auburn at Tennessee in the afternoon. Tennessee, it's a 3-point favorite with a total of 140. Jake, can Tennessee win and by more than 30?
Yeah, I think they do. They are 14-0 as at home this year, but they are 8-6 as a favorite, like against the spread. I think with a small number here, because the most of the losses were bigger numbers, or against the spread were bigger numbers. So with a small number, I believe they get it done. With the way Auburn is struggling on the road, is like kind of surprising and kind of not with how they feed off crowd energy and things. It's going to be a packed Thompson Bowling Arena, and like fans love this Tennessee team, and they're a lot of fun to watch with that pressure defense with Zakai Ziegler and Kennedy Chandler. Don't let you breathe coming up the court. Um, there's not really a height advantage again for Auburn against the guards like there is in most places. They've got a little bit shorter of like point guards, so that kind of helps Tennessee out. I know Jabari Smith is a matchup nightmare, but as I pointed out a couple days ago and stuff, these freshmen don't have the legs to get it done, and he's been struggling here recently on the road. And I think Josiah Jordan James is strong enough to battle with him. So if Tennessee keeps him from like posting up and things, I believe that really leans Tennessee's way. The way Tennessee plays offense at home is they're night and day difference. If you look at the Arkansas game where they barely got past 50 points, and then look at their last few home games like Kentucky where they're just absolutely hitting everything. It's just night and day. So I think those threes go in that weren't going in against Arkansas. I really think Tennessee gets this one done. They need it. They want it after dropping that Arkansas game. And I'm not sure how motivated Auburn is for this. I think they're getting a little tired. They're getting a little beat up on the road. They've lost their last two road games, including at Florida and at Arkansas. So I really think Tennessee gets this one done.
Some very compelling points there. Spread of Tennessee -3. My number's about the same. Almost indicates that these teams are very similar. Auburn maybe a hair better. I think that's probably accurate, but the home road difference, like you mentioned, might be the key here. I think the narrative coming into this game is going to be the same. But as you just said, either A, we're going to be talking about how Tennessee continues to roll at home and Auburn can't play on the road, or we're going to be talking about how Auburn has actually figured something out and figured out how to play better on the road. So it should be a fascinating game to watch there. And hopefully Jake talked you into a good play on Tennessee. Which takes us to our overtime A picks. I've got 14 of them for you here today. So I'm going to run through them, give you one tidbit about them, and I'll give Jake a chance to respond. I'm going to start off with 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, NJIT plus 8.5 at Hartford. I have not won a game backing in JIT this year, 0-4, so I'm going to call this the hashtag trust the process special. We won this one last week when I found one of the same thing. The numbers haven't been favorable to them, but I'm just trusting the process and going to say that's too many points.
Yeah, know nothing about these teams. Probably going to roll with you, but don't have a clue what's going on up there.
Very fair, very fair. Same time slot, 1 p.m. Central. Navy plus 7.5 at Colgate. I am 4-1 on Navy A plays, 2-0 fading Colgate. It's still an A play at the 6.5 that I saw this morning, but that extra point might matter like Louisiana last night. I might be bitter about that for at least a couple more days.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of trust in Navy. Navy's been letting us down here recently, so it's like
they have.
It's like the.
But this is my last straw on Navy. If Navy lets us down here, I'm done with them.
It seems like a good spot for them, but.
3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, Oakland -1 versus Cleveland State. I liked it at -1 yesterday. I see it up to 2 today. It's still a play, but I love it a little bit less. I think this should be a tight one, but I think Oakland gets the job done at home.
Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Same time slot, 2 p.m. Central, Clemson. I've got them +1 at Boston College. These two teams are very average, literally everything they do with the exception of Clemson's offense, which is very good, and that is the difference here in an otherwise lackluster basketball game.
Yeah. Don't watch this one. There's too many other good games going on at the same time. I think Clemson makes enough shots to get this one, to cover this one, probably come out to the win.
And it's funny you said that. I was thinking when I was typing up my notes for this, I almost said something like, this game you might think, but don't watch it. Like, it won't be that good, right? Clemson's offense is good. Otherwise, these teams are nothing to write home about. 2:30 Central, Eastern Michigan +8 at Ball State. I'm 5-3 in all plays involving Eastern Michigan. I think it's too many points as long as you can get at least 7, just a value play in a game that I think stays closer. Ball State probably wins it late.
Yeah, you're probably right. Action does weird stuff like it does with football. So it's been a hard one to predict.
Very, very true. At 3 p.m. Central, I've got New Orleans in a pick 'em at Northwestern State. This morning, this line is all the way out to 2.5. Not an A play. I still would lay to 2.5. Hope y'all got a better number. Hope y'all saw this one last night. It's lost almost 10% of its edge going from 0 to 2.5. So again, hopefully y'all got that in before the line went out to New Orleans this morning.
Yeah, still surprised Northwestern State's in Louisiana. So that's not as much as I know about these teams.
There you go. 4 p.m. Central, I've got San Diego +12.5 versus South Florida. not South Florida, San Francisco. That's San Diego plus 12.5 versus San Francisco. 4-3 on San Diego, 4-2 fading San Francisco. The line's up to 13.5 now. I think that's just too many points. This is the last game of the regular season. I don't think that San Francisco has any incentive to go out and win by 20 on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot of points there. I don't know. I haven't looked at the standings to see if San Francisco can adjust their standings at all. But so
Yeah,
it's a lot of points there.
a lot of points, a lot of points. At 4 p.m., I'm going the other way. I'm laying 12 points with Murray State. At Southeast Missouri State, I am 6-2-1 backing Murray State. As long as they show up, this is a huge mismatch. This is one where if they show up, I think they can't help but win by that many points because they are a lot better than Southeast Missouri State.
Yeah,
So as long as they have motivation, they should be fine.
yeah, I totally agree with you. I just hope it's not a trap game or like a letdown after that huge Belmont game.
Yep, that is definitely the fear for that one. Absolutely. 5:30 Central, Mississippi Valley State. I've got an A pick on them plus 4.5 at Arkansas Pine Bluff. This might surprise you folks, but Mississippi Valley State, they've hung around more than anyone thought. Pine Bluff isn't really better, and if they are, it's only barely. I'm 2-0 this season backing Mississippi Valley State. Haven't had an A pick on them yet. This is the first time, but I'm 6-2 fading Arkansas Pine Bluff. So this is one where I think both these teams are bad. It should be close. Hopefully those 4.5 points provide some value for us.
Yeah, this is a toilet bowl game, battle of the bottom. I'm with you on Mississippi Valley State. I don't think there's 4.5 points between these two teams.
Yeah, been better, been still very bad. Don't get me wrong, but not quite as bad as they were last year.
They're not IUPUI.
Yeah, exactly. At 7 p.m. Central, I've got St. Thomas minus 4.5 versus Omaha. Y'all know I love to fade Omaha. I'm 4-3 in A fades of them. It's out to 6.5 this morning. Still a play, but not an A play if you didn't get that extra couple points of value.
Yeah, once again, game I really don't care about. None of these teams are going to make noise anytime soon. So
very true, very true. How about some teams that you might know something about? 7:30 Central, LSU. I'm laying 12 against Missouri. I still like this at 13.5 as an A pick even, but it's getting out of A range. I think LSU just kicks the crap out of Missouri though.
Yeah, they're going to be mad about the Kentucky game. They've got the pressure defense that's going to – you saw what Tennessee did to Missouri. It's going to be around the same thing. LSU's offense is a lot better with Xavier Pinson going. I think they run Missouri out of the gym.
All right, one that we didn't talk about is a big game, St. Mary's at Gonzaga. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. I've got St. Mary's plus 11 as an A play. It's still an A play at 10 if your book is down to 9.5. That's tougher. It's a little bit more questionable there. I think it's just too many points at St. Mary's. We saw this game in Spokane. St. Mary's can kind of hang around there. St. Mary's, to me, the clear second best team. They have a great defense. I think they hang in. I don't think they get it done, but I think that's too many points. And as long as you're not too many crazy late fouls, I think they can lose by 5 or 7 or 9 and get us to the window.
Yeah, the WCC really needs them to keep it within 10.
Absolutely, and it's a great point. We talked about this exact matchup last time. They needed them to keep it close, and they did, at least until the very end, still covered. They need the same thing tonight. Midnight Eastern, 11 Central, Hawaii minus 6.5 versus Cal State Bakersfield. Look, I want to preach responsible bankroll management. If you are of the drinking variety, get your bets in on this one before you've had too many drinks. It's an A play. I like it, but y'all just remember A plays are picks that I have to win at about a 60% clip, not 100%, right? So don't have too many drinks tonight. Hit that late special if you've lost some money. Don't pour all your bankroll on this game, right? I love Hawaii at this number at 6.5, but again, I think it's only 60% likely to win, which means it's a good investment, but that doesn't mean it's a lock. There are no such thing as 100% winners unless somebody is foolish enough to give you a bet like, will there be at least 2 points scored in the game?
Yeah, I'm riding with you with Hawaii on this one. I like this team, but I've yet to be on the right side of them this year. I think I've won twice when I've played a Hawaii game, so I'm trusting you on this.
All right. Maybe we can break that streak here tonight. And then I've got the A+ play of the day, the last one here for you. I'm 15-12-1 in this segment. Early game, 11 a.m. Central. Toledo, I'm laying 11.5 against Miami. Y'all, the numbers love this one. I am 7-3-1 backing Toledo. I am 7-1 fading Miami. A lot to like here. Toledo gets it done easily to start us off with an A+ winner.
Yeah, I'm with you. This Toledo team is much better than Miami of Ohio. I think they're going to run through them.
All right, Jake, you've got 3 buzzer beaters here to take us home.
Yeah, we've got Marquette -8, who is a lot better than this Butler team, and they're playing at home. So I'm really confused why this line is not more than 10. I really like Davidson against this rough Fordham team. Davidson at home is an incredible offense. Don't think Fordham has enough defense. Also think Wyoming is going to be a little frustrated after that Colorado State game. Maldonado had a bad game. Don't think he does that again. I think he comes out on a vengeance and run. And they actually run Nevada out the gym.
I like that Marquette play. I like them to win easily. I like the under there. Butler really struggles to score. So, yeah, definitely like that one a lot. And that's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Reminder, check out that Google Sheet for all picks and totals on today's games not covered in this episode. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button. We'll get you a new episode every weekday of the college basketball season. We'll be back live next Saturday on YouTube at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. We will see you Monday. Everyone have a good weekend. Best of luck. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating.